really most people know processed foods are probably not good for us, but they didn't understand why to the extent that you explained. Um, for a lot of people listening, they are low carb. They might even be carnivore. And I've had a lot of people, Mike, come to me saying, Sarah, I've done keto, I switched to carnivore, I've lost 20 pounds, and now I'm plateaued. What's going on? And they keep lowering their calories. And you go to the doctor and the doctor says, just move more and eat less. So what is going on in the body? Because it's not about willpower. These people have amazing willpower.
Yeah, that's a great question. That was a perfect question, because this is the next piece involved with kind of the circulation utilization element of taking food and converting it to energy. As you lower your carbohydrate intake and as you lower your caloric intake, your body is extremely intelligent. Your body will start to downregulate its metabolism so that to protect itself. And now, why does it need to protect itself? Because when you lower your caloric intake, when you lower your carbohydrate intake, you're going to have to get that energy from somewhere. And if you're not getting it exogenously, you're getting it from endogenously. Your body is breaking itself down through these stress hormones to provide this fuel source. So if you don't have enough calories in general, your body's going to release cortisol, adrenaline, and glucagon, also growth hormone and some other hormones, but we'll keep these three for now, just for simplicity's sake. And essentially what happens is these hormones are breaking down your fat stores, breaking down your muscle tissue, and changing your metabolism, lowering it, lowering your thyroid function, lowering the sex steroid function. That's the testosterone. That's the progesterone. That's the estradiol in women. And what winds up happening is you're breaking down your structure, you're slowing your metabolism, and then you start to dig yourself into a nice hole. And the problem is there's a bottom to that hole because you can't eat less endlessly. There is a point where you just like, when you get, and I've worked with many people like this, I'm at 800 calories a day and I can't lose any weight. It's like, so essentially you're starving and you still can't lose weight. That is a drastic down regulation in the metabolic rate. And then what you see is that's where digestive issues, hormonal problems, women have their hair falling out, they're losing their cycles, they're having low energy, sleep is bad, mood gets all over the place. And it's through these stress hormones, through this effect, your body will keep you going, but this is all coming at a cost now. So the state that we want to get ourselves to is we want to get ourselves to a higher metabolic state. We don't want to be relying heavily on these stress hormones, that adrenaline, that glucagon, and that cortisol, because they have these side effects that are essentially the degradation of our body and slowing of our metabolic rate. And as we slow our metabolic rate, since almost every single cellular process in our body requires energy to function, it's the currency of the body, what winds up happening, you start losing these higher order functions. You start to say, oh, my emotional regulation is not that good. I'm getting more agitated. I'm getting snippier. I'm getting more upset with my significant other. You start to see that your desire and motivation to do things starts to decrease. You start to see your reproductive ability starts to decrease. Your body's like, look, we don't have enough energy to make a baby right now. So we're just going to stop the cycle. And, when you get the funds back, when you get that energy back, then we could talk about bringing these functions back on board. So you want to make sure that you're bringing your metabolism up and that you're not relying on these stress hormones. You're relying on adequate thyroid function. You want to have the sex steroids. You want to have the progesterone, the estradiol, the testosterone in the appropriate amounts. You want to have things like DHEA and the pregnenolone. These things are these systems, these hormonal systems are kind of this opposite effect where we have this high metabolic rate. And this is what we see with kids. They're plowing through food. They're eating so much food and they're super lean. And it's because the metabolic rate is appropriate. They haven't spent enough time inside Western society to poison themselves yet so that the metabolism is dropped and all these different types of things are going on. And the thing is that doesn't mean that if you're not a kid, if you're not a teenager anymore, that you can't lose the weight. It doesn't mean that if you're a woman, and because the reason I'm using this demographic in this example is because I have many clients who I work with like this. I have, say, a woman, she's in her 40s, she's had some kids, she's maybe starting late 40s, maybe starting to get into menopause. And she's like, I can't eat any carbs. I can't increase my calories. I'm going to get fat. And then they're just like, look, give me 2 weeks. If you don't get fat after 2 weeks of doing this, let's just try one more week and then try one more week. and let's set your diet up appropriately. Let's stop thinking about restriction. I need to restrict. I need to restrict carbs. I need to keep my calories always low, and start to get to this perspective of I need to eat enough of these different nutrients, macronutrients, which is carbs, protein, fat, and micronutrients, which is vitamins and minerals, so that my body can function at an appropriate level on a consistent basis. I need enough energy to function. And so what basically the goal is to figure those things out. There's research formulas and components that you can use to do that. I have a guide on my website, mikefave.com. It's called the Nutrition Blueprint that runs through all this, helps you set up your diet. It's free. There's no cost. And once you get this stuff dialed in, you start to get these pieces working again. What I wind up seeing is people are eating more and they are losing weight because the stress systems start to come down. The brake on metabolism starts to come down. And then the metabolic rate starts to increase. And before I leave the floor for you, Sarah, because I don't want to monopolize the time so much, I want to add one piece. You cannot continue to raise your caloric intake endlessly and think that metabolism is just going to endlessly increase. There's actually a Goldilocks zone where for your body mass, for your lean body mass, for how much muscle and bone and skin and organs and brain tissue and everything that you have, there's a certain energy requirement for that. And we want to find how much energy do these tissues need to function and shoot for that instead of just like ramp everything up right away. Because that's what tends to happen when people come from these low carb, carnivore, keto diets. And I did this myself. I'm to blame. I did the same exact thing and I learned the hard way. And then that's where I was like, okay, it's not more is better. Maybe there's like this nice, perfect range that I want to find myself in and figure out what that is. And so you want to get to this Goldilocks zone and make sure you're having enough and get rid of this restriction mindset and start to like objectively look at your diet, take the fear component out of it and make sure that you get to like more of a expansive perspective or an abundance mindset around how you're eating and how you're functioning.
I love all of that. And what I was going to tell you was that I have started incorporating more carbs in my diet, and I was actually trying to put some weight on. And what happened in response was my metabolic rate went up. And I'm like, oh, well, so I need to increase it even more. Oh, no, I need to increase it even more. And my body's handling it fine. Why? These carbs are not processed foods. These are whole food carbs. So that's what we're talking about. You've got to make sure that you are not putting all carbs in one basket. That is not the truth. And, I talk about chicken having amyloid proteins and high omega-6 fatty acids. That is different than eating a bison burger that is, grass-fed, grass-finished, full of nutrients. So you can't just talk about proteins, fats, and carbs. There's very specific healthy ones and non-healthy ones in each category.